I gotta say, this is one of the most complex, technical and contentious bills, potentially just as contentious as the Treaty Principles Bill. Why? This bill may not be about a treaty between two peoples, but a treaty between humankind and all living things, the environment, animals and foods. This is a kaupapa that I'm very passionate about. Before this political life, I was living the dream. I was a full-time gardener and a project manager where we created the first ever Māori organic community kai garden in partnership with the Ministry of Primary Industries. We turned a once huge corn maze that honestly just gave us hay fever into a Māori supermarket with lush, abundant, good, nutritious food for the local communities in my electorate. This is where I was introduced to the concept of what GE and GMO is and the whakapapa of our kai. So what is gene technology? To break it down for all the rangatahi watching right now. It is the science of changing or controlling the genes inside living things, like plants, animals, or even bacteria, to make them do things we want. Genes are like the instructions that tell living things how to grow, look, and work. With gene technology, scientists can add, remove, or change these instructions to improve health, make better crops, or even create new medicines. It's like editing a recipe to make it better, different, or potentially even worse. I myself have personally been a GE and GMO-free advocate. And before I carry on, I'd like to acknowledge the many different teams, Te Waka Kaiora, Huapara Kore, He Whenua Rongo, Kore Hia Kai, and Te Papa Whakaritorito Trust, for their continuous advocation and knowledge in this kaupapa. So what are the pros and cons? Pros, improved crops. 2, disease treatment, better nutrition, medical advancements. Cons, environmental risks, health concerns, ethical issues, and cost and control. In my eyes, GE in the right hand is great, but GE in the wrong hands is terrible. Aotearoa's New Zealand current status on genetically modified organisms, otherwise known as GMOs, is that no fresh produce or meat is genetically modified and no GMOs are grown commercially. However, some processed foods may contain approved GMO ingredients that have been imported. With the introduction of this bill, that is about to completely change. JR running from the Daily Telegraph New Zealand says, I quote, "The proposed deregulation of GMOs is so extreme that Judith Collins' current proposal would turn in New Zealand from the best practice, tight regulated jurisdictions to one of the weakest in the Western world," end quote. This bill is taking the lead from Australia and acknowledges that we need to bring our legislation up to par with the international frameworks. However, proposed European legislation has stalled, and in Europe, deregulation exclusively concerns plants, while in New Zealand, deregulation would encompass plants, animals, and microbiomes. My first policy release was an Aotearoa's Kai sovereignty policy. Some of the main points within this policy was to honour Y262 and reject research and the commercialisation that is done without hapu, iwi, and whānau consent. Two unresolved issues raised in Y262 claims remain outstanding, and it is the duty of this Parliament to honour the claim and bring the claim to conclusion. Decisions about flora, fauna and wider environment that is symbolic to Māori culture, and decisions about how education, culture and heritage agencies support the transmission of Māori culture. We don't oppose the research and rangahau that can create massive benefits for humankind, but as a nation we must assure that these checks and balances in our regulatory system framework is in a place that is robust enough to counter the potential risk factors. We have no idea of the long-term impacts into the future. We are literally going into the unknown, or otherwise opening a can of worms. As Māori gardeners, me, Rawiri, Debbie and Mariamino have various seeds that protect handed down from our ancestors all the way from Hawaii, which we still plant in our backyards today. This speaks volume to the way in which we protect our Māori intangible and tangible resources and taonga. I could have gone longer, but...
Sam Offendale.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Okay. Interesting. I'd like to know whether it's organic. What's it? Planting Māori supermarket of fruits and vegetables in place.
I love a good Māori kai. I love a good Māori supermarket, but yeah, I mean, I like Hana, but I disagree with you here. Yeah, so we're not talking about taking genes from different species and merging them with other species. We're not talking about creating plants that are going to be crossbreeding with other plants. We're talking about sterile plants. We're talking about, so I think a lot of what she's going on about is a bit, it's a bit overblown.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I'm much more concerned about the business side of things rather than, oh, this potential red-fleshed apple could give you cancer, even though we don't have empirical evidence for that. It's like, yeah, I haven't seen any research that shows that GE food causes cancer. I looked it up. I couldn't find it.
Yeah.
It's pretty inconclusive. I don't know how the GE food would cause you cancer, especially if we're working with already existing genes within, like, say, an apple. I'm not quite sure which gene within the apple causes cancer, or how much. But yeah, I need a bit more than what she gave me.
Yeah, so true, yeah.